Should Canadians believe you'll do anything differently, though, than Justin Trudeau? You've advised him. You've given him advice. You've been a Liberal. So what is going to be markedly different here?
Well, there's several things. First, you started by a few moments ago mentioning that I had 20 different responsibilities.
If you thought Justin Trudeau was bad, boy, oh boy, this guy is going to blow your mind. Mark Carney does a one-on-one sit down to talk more about how he's going to absolutely destroy our country. I mean, this guy is the product of the World Economic Forum. He's the boss at the World Economic Forum. Trudeau is controlled by the WEF. Mark Carney is the WEF. This is extremely scary. Even look at his face. Look at his face. This is 0 seconds, 0 minutes, 0 seconds into the interview. And this is like pretty much the thumbnail. Look at that guy. That's a freaking weird reaction, weird looking face. We're going to take a look at this interview. We're going to sit down and dissect this because it's freaking scary, man. Oh my goodness. The future of Canada. I mean, Pierre's got a landslide victory. It looks like, okay, everything's looking phenomenal. But the fact that this guy's throwing his hat in the ring, he's an elitist. He's the elite of the elitists. We're in scary territory right now. So let's just get started.
Mark Carney, nice to see you. Appreciate you being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm going to start with the issue that is of most concern to Canadians right now, and that is, of course, the threat of tariffs by the president. You have said that you are leaving this to the real-time negotiations to the Prime Minister, but you could be faced with all of this in a matter of weeks. So what is your plan to take on the president's tariff threat specifically?
Well, so if I am selected as leader of the Liberal Party and therefore Prime Minister,
notice how he didn't say elected. He said selected. That's some creepy ass verbiage.
I'll do a couple of things. One is I will pick up where we are at that point. There are negotiations ongoing. They go back and forth. As we all know, the president changes his mind or raises different issues day by day, and so the government has to deal with that. So I'll pick things up where they are. But one thing I want to emphasize, and what I can talk about and have been talking about, is one of the most important things we can do for Canada, but also for the negotiations, is to concentrate on what we can control. We can't control President Trump, but we can control what we do here at home to reinforce our economy. So that's middle-class tax cut, that's investing in infrastructure, it's building new trade routes, it's doing all these things. It's having one Canadian economy instead of 13. And what I'm being more and more clear about is exactly how I would do that if I am selected.
And I will ask you some of those questions, but I still think that it would be helpful for Canadians to know exactly what you would do when it comes to tariffs. So why are you being so reticent to talk about that?
Because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises. I know what you do in the order you can control things. It is not a good idea to insert yourself in the middle of a negotiation, give conflicting signals.
Other candidates are doing that.
It's not a good idea to do that. Full stop.
Right.
And I'm in a position where I take my responsibilities or my potential responsibilities seriously. I'm in contact. I understand where the state of play is, and as much as possible, we need to move in with very deliberately. Another point I would make is I'm not looking to negotiate. If I am selected as leader and therefore Prime Minister, my interlocutor, the person I would negotiate with, is the President, not with others. And so again, it's important at that stage. And last point, if I may, it's not appropriate for me at this point to have direct contact, obviously, with President Trump.
You have proposed that big polluters pay consumers through a carbon credit market with the industrial pricing system. So you get rid of the carbon tax for consumers, and you would put this in place instead. How would you ensure, though, that those costs aren't passed on to consumers?
So there's a couple of things. First, and just to be clear, in terms of removing the consumer carbon tax, that also means we're removing the carbon tax for small, medium-sized enterprises, for farms and others, basically everyone up to 50 kilotons of emissions. So it's the large polluters that pay. Now, those large polluters today, what they try to do is reduce their own emissions. If they don't get to certain levels, depending on the sector, they pay the producer carbon tax, the OP.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, he's saying that he wants to remove the carbon tax, but he's not. He's still leaving it on for people that produce the most amount of emissions, and that would be people that distribute goods. Right. And so we're still paying the carbon tax. It's just super freaking weird verbiage, man. This guy is a creep.
PPS system as a whole, as you know. They have an option to buy carbon credits, which reduces the tax they pay. That market doesn't function very well. That carbon credit market doesn't function very well. So what we're actually doing here is improving the market, improving how it functions, adding additional credits, so additional options for those large polluters. They could buy these credits. This federal government will stand in between. And what's going to be new is a series of new incentives for households to reduce those emissions.
It still sounds to me, though, that there's an opportunity for companies to pass that on to consumers.
Well, just to be clear, them buying credits reduces their costs. It helps Canadians reduce their own emissions. Now, take a big step back and look at the overall producer carbon price. And let's take the example of the steel industry. So there's a carbon price on steel. To the extent to which that's paid, yes, that does show up in the cost, for example, of an automobile. Now, let's put this into proportions. If you look at a $25,000 or less car, the cost, if you replaced all the steel, and it became green steel, so no carbon steel, which is an extreme version of what we're talking about here, it's less than $200 additional price. So it's something, but it's not much. That's
okay, but you acknowledge that the consumer would pay more at some point.
Well, the consumer is already paying more. Just to be clear, the consumer is already paying more. These are marginal amounts, and two things are happening. One, with our plan, is that it gives the companies more options. It gives households, Canadian households who are hard-pressed. Look, I was across the prairies. It's minus 30 in the prairies. It'd be good to be able to insulate your house better, to drive other efficiencies. So it helps that. And may I make one other point, which is one of the things we have to be able to do as Canada is we have to get our companies more competitive. It's a big, bad world out there. Sorry. It's a big, bad world out there. The people with whom we are more likely to trade with, now that our closest trading partner is attacking us, cares about carbon emission reductions. You look at the European Union, look at the major. So
I need to move on. I need to move on because we don't have a lot of time. And you are saying that you're going to take away the carbon rebate, obviously, as well as the.
She's not impressed with them, which is a breath of fresh air, because every single time you've had mainstream media report on or interview Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, they don't have this resting B phase, RBF, right, as they like to say. And now that that Trudeau's out, you have to interview a whole bunch of new candidates for the Liberal leadership to then be the interim prime minister. It's good that she's not really falling for his crap, right? And neither am I, and chances are you aren't either. And I feel like we really need to start badgering Mark Carney and really looking at what he's going after. He's saying we're getting rid of a surface level carbon tax, but there's going to be a deep rooted carbon tax, and the big polluters that are going to be paying the carbon tax have an opportunity to buy carbon credits to reduce their costs. Like, bro, what the hell are you doing? This isn't a video game. It's not a 2-tier play to win system. Just reduce taxes all around. What do you mean? You get carbon credit coins and then you can change that in for tax rebates? Like, what the hell is going on here, man? Just simplify it. Less tax. Stop worrying so much about climate change. Pay less taxes. Get rid of the carbon tax. Less taxes. But this guy and the other Liberal candidates, they're not doing that. They're trying to surface level, go after Pierre's side, right? We're going to axe the tax. We're going to get rid of it. But it's just smoke and mirrors because they don't want to get rid of it. Carney doesn't want to get rid of it, as we just heard.
The carbon tax, right? So, and you're promising a middle class tax cut.
Yeah.
Who are you targeting? How broad is that, and how will you pay for it?
Okay. First off, thank you for raising that, because one of the core points is we don't just say axe the tax and then walk away. Don't care about our companies. Don't care about their competitiveness. Don't care about taking away the rebate. That's what Pierre Poilievre does. Pierre Poilievre doesn't care about the implication of his actions.
Well, he's going to give a tax cut as well.
He doesn't twin the two. Doesn't look. Doesn't think the add up. Doesn't think it matters. We'll do a broad-based middle class tax cut. We'll release the details of that in the coming weeks as appropriate, and we'll show that Canadian households are coming out ahead.
Will you balance the budget, and how quickly?
A couple of things there. One of the things we're going to do later this week is go through our new fiscal, what I would propose as our fiscal rules. Core to that is
he was the advisor. When Freeland was the finance minister, he was the advisor for Canada's finances. So the fact that we've been running a $60 billion quarterly deficit, and that's why Freeland didn't want to announce the budget, she really jumped ship and not only screwed Justin Trudeau over, but screwed Mark Carney over. He played a role. He was a contractor. He played a role in our budget. So the answer should immediately be, I'm not capable of balancing the budget because I've already tried and there was a massive deficit. That should be the only answer out of his mouth.
To reduce spending of the government, so to balance our operational spending over the course of the next 3 years, to be absolutely clear what that means in terms of operational spending, it is all the programs that the government runs. It is the transfers to provinces, which, as you know, health and education transfers. It's transfers to individuals. It's debt service, which continues to increase as government goes up. So we will balance that over 3 years. Where we are willing to borrow is to invest and grow this economy. That is an absolute crucial point.
So there'll be a deficit.
It is a fundamental difference between the approach the government has taken up until now. It is a fundamental difference between the approach of Pierre Poilievre, which is a trickle-down, thousand flowers.
But there will be a deficit. It'll just be, you'll justify it because it's investing in the economy. Is that?
Investing in the economy at a time when we absolutely have to build as a country. And let me be clear about what investing in the economy means. It means precious taxpayers' dollars catalyzing many multiples of private dollars to build homes, to build the new energy infrastructure, both conventional oil and gas, clean energy, to build out our new AI systems, and to build out new trade corridors, all of which are fundamentally necessary if we are going to grow this economy, irrespective of how President Trump is feeling on one day or another.
You talk about building new infrastructure, including pipelines. Do you support the idea of a west-east pipeline?
Look, I support the concept. I also know that Canada is a federation. First, let me say a couple of things. One is that we, as a nation, need to build some new pipelines for conventional energy. There are several options that are on the table. Some of them are quite advanced. Others of them are not. The Energy East, to use that term, has not progressed that much. It could restart, but there's not currently a sponsor. There's not progress there.
Would your government be a proponent of that pipeline if it were to start again, given that the government bought a pipeline in the past?
A couple of things. One is
East to West. East to West, buddy. Do you support it? Yes or no? Like, again, you have a Trudeau version 2, a scarier version of Trudeau because it doesn't carry any of that political baggage that Justin Trudeau had, right? He's been in the shadows this entire time. So people have seen him talk right now, unless you're watching videos like this that break down his nonsense, right? And know what he's done and how he's contributed to our massive deficit and our massive amount of debt, then you're going to think that, these are just talking points and he's coming at it from fresh eyes. No. Do you support a pipeline east to west to transport our oil and gas? It's very simple. The answer is 100% yes. The only thing that Canada should be focused on is growing our economy and making more money. We have to be able to ship it from our ports on the West Coast overseas. We have to be able to ship it from our ports on the East Coast overseas. That's the only thing that we should be worried about. One of the main things that we should be worried, not the only thing, one of the things, that we should be worried about here in Canada. You can't even answer a simple question. I support the idea of it. No. Say that it's going to be a non-negotiable for provinces to comply with this. Non-negotiable. So it means no province can get in the way of it being completed. I'm looking at you, Quebec. Okay, Quebec can't say, we don't want this coming through our province. No, non-negotiable. It's gonna happen. You need that. You need that firm hand to come down and say, we're doing the pipeline no matter what. No one's getting in the way.
My government would do is, and we've signaled this very clearly, we would use extraordinary powers of the federal government in order to accelerate the approvals for such pipelines, to accelerate the approval for clean energy.
Like repealing C-69? What does that mean?
We have extraordinary powers on impact assessment as well as others, and we.
What do you mean extraordinary powers? Non-negotiables. Just say that. It's a non-negotiable. No band can get in the way. No city or municipality or county, no nothing can get in the way. No province can get in the way. It's a non-negotiable. If I'm elected as prime minister, I will continue, or I will build a pipeline from east to west, non-negotiable. Nobody can get in the way. What are you talking about? Emergency powers? No, that's people don't want to hear that. Talk about reading the room, or a failure to read the room. Canadians don't want to hear emergency powers. The last time that was even used, it was illegally used. That's already been decided. So why are you coming out here trying to win Canadians over and saying, well, we're going to use emergency powers? What the hell are you talking about, man? That's not the right approach at all.
Can delegate authority. But let me make a core point, which is Canada is a federation. So we take decisions. There's not one decision maker here. If you listen to Pierre Poilievre yesterday, as you probably did, he didn't mention the provinces once. He never mentioned First Nations. He acted as if it's just his decision to fly in somewhere and decide which pipeline happened.
Yes, non-negotiable. You're the prime minister. Make it happen, dude. Like this whole thing about how all of our provinces aren't communicating or even talking with each other. This whole thing that's going on in Canada of how you have all these blockades of who can build what, and you going through all these, indigenous lands and stuff like that, bro. Non-negotiables. Canada has very high standards. Oil is not going to be spilt. If it is, it's going to be extremely well cleaned up, and you're probably going to be extremely compensated for it. Like, just make it happen, man. Like, we're dealing with these minority voices that are controlling everything. That's how we've become this progressive country under Justin Trudeau. He doesn't have the balls to just say, this is what's happening, and it's non-negotiable. And Mark Carney doesn't have the nuts either for it. Like, just go in, bro. You're the leader of the country. This is how it's going to be. I don't care if you need to get votes here and there. Just freaking make it happen, man. This is what Canada needs right now, is a sweeping conservative outlook on everything. And this guy's still tippity-toeing around our oil and gas and our pipeline. If we don't have a pipeline that goes from east to west in the next 2 years, we're screwed. We're screwed for the next 50 years. 100%. We are absolutely screwed. This is our last chance to actually get out of debt and become a bit of an economic powerhouse. And if it doesn't happen because of these little pussyfooting around, oh my goodness, man, it's going to be catastrophic for Canada.
So Energy East, Northern Gateway, GNL, there's many others, these examples, interties between electricity grids, big trade corridors. Those are decisions that have to be taken in consultation with provinces, with First Nations. We need to do those rapidly, and one of the things I'm proposing, and one of the things I would do as Prime Minister, is quickly convene First Ministers. First and foremost, for free trade in Canada, we need one economy here, not 13. But secondly, and relatedly, is to advance some of these major projects. Let's decide which ones we want to build, and then let's get on with building.
When you were chair of Brookfield Management, you took on that role with the Liberal Party to advise the Prime Minister about economic growth. At the same time, Brookfield was looking to create a Canadian fund, was trying to get access to Canadian pension funds and federal money. Were you part of that bid, and was that appropriate?
I was not part of that bid. I'm not sure I recognize the full description of how you said it, but I was not part of that, no.
You resigned from more than 20 corporate boards, I think?
Not.
That was a weird answer. I don't know. That was fishy. That was real fishy.
Corporate boards. Most of those boards were philanthropic or charity.
You are not yet subject to ethics requirements.
I don't have any power, Rosie.
No, but would you put anything out there for Canadians to better understand your business dealings and your financial picture before you're elected?
Obviously, I'm going to comply with all the ethics guidelines, conflicts of interest guidelines, blind trust.
But during an election, before you have a seat, would you be willing to show Canadians what they're dealing with and what you've been dealing with?
Well, let's be clear. Okay. I was UN Special Envoy for Climate Action. I was chair of chair of Brookfield on a number of philanthropic boards, and did a lot of charity and other work. So that's all disclosed in the public domain. I will immediately subject myself, if I am elected Liberal leader, of course I'm going to immediately subject myself to all the ethics guidelines, conflicts.
Now he says elected when he started off by saying selected. I mean, words matter here, folks. They absolutely matter. And the way this guy talks is extremely frightening.
Of interest guidelines, other guidelines, in order to pursue.
You've been part of, in all of these various jobs that you've had. in some pretty elite circles, royals, celebrities, world leaders. Do you feel like you, in that position, understand what Canadians are going through right now in terms of their cost of living?
100% not.
Yes. I mean, I understand that Canadians, the average income, household income in Canada is $70,000. There's been a huge increase in the price level over the course of the last 5 years.
This guy, do you understand what Canadians are going through? And this guy just Googled. That's all he did is Google average wage in Canada. Okay, to me, that says you have no freaking idea, buddy. You're reading off a statistic when it should be a more human level. You know what the answer to that should be? I understand that people are struggling. I understand that there's more and more people that are living on the streets, and I understand that people are less and less able to afford a house, and people are being squeezed out of their house. They're going for mortgage renewals. They got mortgages when they were at all-time historic lows, right, Glenn? They're at all-time historic lows, Glenn. What are you doing? What are you talking about? And now that 5 years has gone by, people are renewing at insanely higher numbers, and they can't afford this. They have to sell them. Foreclosures. People are paying double what they should be, double what the price of blueberries were in 2019 and in 2020. Like, that's real life. This guy just gave off a statistic. That's weird. It's cringe. It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Groceries more expensive. Housing has outstripped the ability of most younger Canadians to save for deposits and get on the housing ladder. So I understand that. What the advantage of my experience as Governor of the Bank of Canada, working internationally, working with companies, et cetera, as an investor as well, is I know what to do about it. I know how to change it. We started this discussion about how are we going to react to the United States. This is not a theoretical exercise. It is a practical exercise. You have to understand what's going to drive investment in this economy. Let's be clear. There's huge uncertainty that's been put on us because of the Americans, because of the global situation. We need to take that away. We need to drive investment. Yes. I'm here because I have that experience, because I know how to manage crises, because I know how to grow economies.
But what you don't know how to do, with all due respect to you, is be a politician, because you've never done it before. And if you
I was just about to say, oh my goodness, she beat me to it. I should have paused it. I was just about to say, the way she's been looking at him tells me that he does not belong as a politician. It's almost like, I can't believe that she said that. I was just about to freaking say, oh my goodness, that it feels like he got a crash course on liberal talking points. Okay, Carney, whenever you're in trouble, just say, let me be clear, and then double down on your points and come at it from a different angle, right? Not 90 degrees, but 45. Just attack it from a 45-degree angle. You got this. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. Just say it like that. It's really going to work. It's like he's got a crash course, a failed 30-minute to 2-hour crash course on how to be a liberal politician, and it's not working. I can see right through it, and she can see right through it too. This is hilarious.
And you would be the first prime minister who's never had an elected seat and never held office of any kind. Why should Canadians believe that you're up to this job?
Well, Canadians, it's a decision. Canadians will, first off, my first job is to be elected leader of the Liberal Party. So members of the Liberal Party, which have more than quadrupled over the course of the last month, and I've played a role in helping to cause that change, will decide who they want as their leader, and they'll be elected by or not by those individuals. Then Canadians, in short order, will get a decision whether or not which government they want to return to Ottawa. We will put forward a very clear plan for this country at a moment of crisis, not just to grow the economy, crucial, and we can do that. We have the experience in order to do that, but also to protect the vulnerable in this country. By the way, another thing Mr. Poilievre did not mention yesterday. It's as if nobody is disabled in this economy. Nobody is old. Yeah. Nobody is unemployed.
She doesn't care.
Nobody needs any support or help. It's just the economy.
Why get into politics right now? Have you been offered positions in the past?
I have been offered positions in the past. I was offered, for example, Prime Minister Harper asked me if I would be his finance minister in 2012. It wasn't appropriate to proceed with that. I didn't. it has
Why wasn't
been
it
raised.
appropriate to proceed with that?
Well, I was governor of the central bank at the time, and I didn't feel that it was appropriate to go directly from being governor into elected politics. We're in a different, and there's been opportunities over time to join the Liberal Party and run. Why am I here now? Because we're in a crisis. This, for better or worse, my career, my experience prepares me for this moment.
Why should Canadians believe you'll do anything differently, though, than Justin Trudeau? You've advised him. You've given him advice. You've been a Liberal. So what is going to be markedly different?
She's not
Well, there's several
it.
things. First, you started by a few moments ago mentioning that I had 20 different responsibilities. I had 3 full-time jobs. How much time do you think I spent advising the government, quote unquote?
Well, if you listen to conservatives, you were doing it all the time.
Well, yeah, if you listen to conservatives, you think a lot of things that are wrong. We're very different people, Prime Minister and I. We have different backgrounds. I was born in the Northwest Territories. He was born in Rideau Hall. I'm a hockey goalie. He's a snowboarder. I focus on the economy. He has had a different focus for Canada. I think we have the same values, and we're trying to achieve the same ends. For this moment of crisis, for this moment where we have to get our economy not just on track, but build it to be the strongest economy in the G7. That's what my experience, that's where it's directly relevant. And the other thing that's, if I may, I think is different between him and I, is my experience in all these different organizations and things over the years, is the importance of team, the importance of delegating authority, bringing the team along. We've got a lot of experience on the Liberal bench. I want to draw on that experience. I want to add to that experience and bring in outside expertise. There's some big differences, and there'll be big changes because the moment demands big changes.
We'll leave it there. Mr. Carney, thank you very much.
She was not having it. Man, I could see right through him. Right freaking through him. He didn't even have a good answer as to how he's different than Justin Trudeau and why people should think that he's different than Justin Trudeau. The guy is full of crap. And I'm really surprised that the interviewer didn't actually bring up the fact that he's on the board of the World Economic Forum and how Pierre Poilievre has had this completely separate approach that everyone from his cabinet is banned from the World Economic Forum, yet he's the guy in the WEF, right? Like he reports directly to Klaus Schwab, I can only assume. And so are they the different people? Sure. Is Trudeau a snowboarder and he was a goalie? Sure. But is it going to be the same result? Oh yeah, abso-freaking-lutely.